Far beyond the borders of Alliance space lay a silent region known as the Sol Barrier Zone. Most species avoided it. The Alliance had declared it a restricted sector many years ago, a place where no foreign ship could enter without permission. Officially, it was called a quarantine. But everyone knew the truth. This was where the humans had been pushed, quietly, politely, and permanently. For decades, the Alliance had locked them away behind a ring of automated defense satellites, claiming it was for balance and harmony. But deep inside, the Council feared humanity's strength, the same strength that once saved them. Now, after the vote, a lone Alliance vessel drifted through the barrier, carrying 2 ambassadors and a message that no one ever expected to deliver again. The ship was small, silver, and shaped like a blade cutting through space. Inside, the ambassadors sat in uneasy silence. Ambassador Taryn Leo, a slim creature with glowing turquoise skin, watched the empty space ahead nervously. "I do not like this," he whispered. "Humans are unpredictable. They do not react like other species." Ambassador Selka, a tall insectoid with folded wings, didn't look away from the window. "We have no choice. The swarm is 3 days away from core space. If the humans refuse us, we lose everything." The ship passed the final satellite. A cold female voice spoke from the speakers. "State your purpose. Unauthorized entry into human territory is prohibited." Selka straightened. "We come with a diplomatic request. Urgent code. Transmission from the United Star Alliance Council." There was a pause, long enough to make them sweat. Then the voice replied, "Stand by." The ship was scanned by beams of blue light. Every system, every weapon, every biological signature was read in seconds. Humans did not take chances. Not anymore. Finally the voice spoke again. "You are cleared. An escort will guide you." 2 massive human battleships appeared out of the darkness like silent giants. Their design was different from Alliance vessels, heavier, darker, built with purpose rather than beauty. They moved like predators. Taryn swallowed hard. "They look dangerous." Selka whispered back, "They always were." The escort led them toward Earth Command Station, a colossal ring-shaped fortress orbiting a blue and white planet. Lights glowed across its surface. Guns larger than city blocks pointed outward like fangs. Even from a distance, the ambassadors felt its presence like a warning. When their ship docked, a human officer greeted them. The officer was tall, wearing a dark uniform with silver lines and a stern expression. His eyes were sharp, and there was something uncomfortably calm about him. "I am Lieutenant Mara Kane," she said. "You will follow me." No smile. No small talk. No diplomatic softness. The ambassadors hurried behind her through wide metal corridors filled with human soldiers. Every soldier they passed looked strong, focused, and ready for war. Not a single one looked afraid. Finally, they reached a room with tall doors. Mara stopped. "Commander Arden Vale will see you now." The doors opened with a deep rumble. Inside stood Commander Arden Vale, the leader of the Human Defense Force. He was taller than Mara, with dark eyes and a quiet intensity that made both ambassadors freeze for a moment. There was no arrogance in him, only a controlled storm beneath the surface. Arden's gaze moved to the ambassadors. "You have come a long way," he said. "State your request." Selka stepped forward, wings trembling slightly. "Commander Vale, the Alliance faces a threat unlike any before. A swarm, the Vraxi, has begun consuming our systems. Our fleets fail against them. Our defenses collapse. She hesitated. We need humanity's help." Arden didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied them with an expression that neither anger nor kindness revealed. Only understanding. "You need us now," Arden said quietly. "After exiling us. After calling us unstable. After removing our membership from your alliance." He stepped closer. "Why now?" Taryn exhaled shakily. "Because we have no other hope." Arden's eyes narrowed. "You always had hope. You just didn't want to admit where it came from." The ambassadors lowered their heads. They knew he was right. Arden returned to his command table, activating a hologram that showed the Vraxi swarm moving across the stars like spreading fire. His jaw tightened at the sight. "We've been tracking the swarm longer than you know," he said. "We saw your fleets fall. We knew this was coming." Selka blinked in surprise. "You knew? Then why did you not help earlier?" Arden looked at her sharply. "Humans do not go where we are not wanted." Taryn felt a sting of guilt. "Commander, the Council made mistakes. We made mistakes. But we are here now because billions of lives are at stake. If the swarm reaches Earth, humanity will also fall. Arden's expression softened, just a little. We don't plan to let it reach Earth. He pressed a button. A holographic star map appeared, showing human fleets already assembled. Massive carriers, war cruisers, stealth destroyers, and something else, something huge. A ship the size of a small moon. Selka gasped. What is that? Arden answered, the Ragnar flagship. Our last line war vessel. You might call it humanity's answer to extinction. The ambassadors stared at the glowing structure, unable to imagine the weapons it must carry. Arden stepped around the table, hands clasped behind his back. Tell me something, ambassadors. When the council sent you here, did they send apologies? The two aliens froze, unsure how to answer. Arden nodded slightly. Just as I thought. Then he turned to the window, watching Earth rotate far below. Humanity remembers everything the Alliance did. The isolation. The judgment. The fear. The attempts to control us. He paused. But we also remember something else. Selka asked softly, what is that? That the galaxy is our home too, Arden said. We won't let it burn. He finally faced them again. Humans will help. Not because the Alliance asked. But because innocent lives are dying. The ambassadors let out shaky breaths of relief. But, Arden added, voice firm, we fight on our terms. Our strategy. Our command. Selka nodded quickly. Yes, Commander. The Council will accept anything. Arden gave a small, humorless smile. They will accept it because they no longer have a choice. He tapped the table. Lieutenant Kane, prepare the fleet. Yes, Commander, Mara replied immediately, leaving the room. Arden returned his focus to the ambassadors. Go back to your council, he said. Tell them that humanity is coming. His voice grew hard. And tell them to stay out of our way. The ambassadors bowed their heads deeply. Thank you, Commander Vale. Arden did not reply. He simply turned back to the star map, staring at the red lines showing the swarm's advance. The room hummed with the sound of engines powering up in distant hangars. Outside the station, human warships began to move, like a storm gathering strength. Humanity had been silent for many years. But now, the galaxy would feel their return. Far beyond the borders of Alliance space lay a silent region known as the Sol Barrier Zone. Most species avoided it. The Alliance had declared it a restricted sector many years ago, a place where no foreign ship could enter without permission. Officially, it was called a quarantine. But everyone knew the truth. This was where the humans had been pushed, quietly, politely, and permanently. For decades, the Alliance had locked them away behind a ring of automated defense satellites, claiming it was for balance and harmony. But deep inside, the Council feared humanity's strength, the same strength that once saved them. Now, after the vote, a lone Alliance vessel drifted through the barrier, carrying 2 ambassadors and a message that no one ever expected to deliver again. The ship was small, silver, and shaped like a blade cutting through space. Inside, the ambassadors sat in uneasy silence. Ambassador Taryn Leo, a slim creature with glowing turquoise skin, watched the empty space ahead nervously. I do not like this, he whispered. Humans are unpredictable. They do not react like other species. Ambassador Selka, a tall insectoid with folded wings, didn't look away from the window. We have no choice. The swarm is 3 days away from core space. If the humans refuse us, we lose everything. The ship passed the final satellite. A cold female voice spoke from the speakers. State your purpose. Unauthorized entry into human territory is prohibited. Selka straightened. We come with a diplomatic request. Urgent code. Transmission from the United Star Alliance Council. There was a pause, long enough to make them sweat. Then the voice replied, stand by. The ship was scanned by beams of blue light. Every system, every weapon, every biological signature was read in seconds. Humans did not take chances. Not anymore. Finally the voice spoke again. You are cleared. An escort will guide you. 2 massive human battleships appeared out of the darkness like silent giants. Their design was different from Alliance vessels, heavier, darker, built with purpose rather than beauty. They moved like predators. Taryn swallowed hard. They look dangerous. Selka whispered back, they always were. The escort led them toward Earth Command Station, a colossal ring-shaped fortress orbiting a blue and white planet. Lights glowed across its surface. Guns larger than city blocks pointed outward like fangs. Even from a distance, the ambassadors felt its presence like a warning. When their ship docked, a human officer greeted them. The officer was tall, wearing a dark uniform with silver lines and a stern expression. His eyes were sharp, and there was something uncomfortably calm about him. "I am Lieutenant Mara Kane," she said. "You will follow me." No smile. No small talk. No diplomatic softness. The ambassadors hurried behind her through wide metal corridors filled with human soldiers. Every soldier they passed looked strong, focused, and ready for war. Not a single one looked afraid. Finally, they reached a room with tall doors. Mara stopped. "Commander Arden Vale will see you now." The doors opened with a deep rumble. Inside stood Commander Arden Vale, the leader of the Human Defense Force. He was taller than Mara, with dark eyes and a quiet intensity that made both ambassadors freeze for a moment. There was no arrogance in him, only a controlled storm beneath the surface. Arden's gaze moved to the ambassadors. "You have come a long way," he said. "State your request." Selka stepped forward, wings trembling slightly. "Commander Vale, the Alliance faces a threat unlike any before. A swarm, the Vraxi, has begun consuming our systems. Our fleets fail against them. Our defenses collapse. She hesitated. We need humanity's help." Arden didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied them with an expression that neither anger nor kindness revealed. Only understanding. "You need us now," Arden said quietly. "After exiling us. After calling us unstable. After removing our membership from your alliance." He stepped closer. "Why now?" Taryn exhaled shakily. "Because we have no other hope." Arden's eyes narrowed. "You always had hope. You just didn't want to admit where it came from." The ambassadors lowered their heads. They knew he was right. Arden returned to his command table, activating a hologram that showed the Vraxi swarm moving across the stars like spreading fire. His jaw tightened at the sight. "We've been tracking the swarm longer than you know," he said. "We saw your fleets fall. We knew this was coming." Selka blinked in surprise. "You knew? Then why did you not help earlier?" Arden looked at her sharply. "Humans do not go where we are not wanted." Taryn felt a sting of guilt. "Commander, the Council made mistakes. We made mistakes. But we are here now because billions of lives are at stake. If the swarm reaches Earth, humanity will also fall." Arden's expression softened, just a little. "We don't plan to let it reach Earth." He pressed a button. A holographic star map appeared, showing human fleets already assembled. Massive carriers, war cruisers, stealth destroyers, and something else, something huge. A ship the size of a small moon. Selka gasped. "What is that?" Arden answered, "The Ragnar flagship. Our last-line war vessel. You might call it humanity's answer to extinction." The ambassadors stared at the glowing structure, unable to imagine the weapons it must carry. Arden stepped around the table, hands clasped behind his back. "Tell me something, ambassadors. When the Council sent you here, did they send apologies?" The two aliens froze, unsure how to answer. Arden nodded slightly. "Just as I thought." Then he turned to the window, watching Earth rotate far below. "Humanity remembers everything the Alliance did. The isolation. The judgment. The fear. The attempts to control us." He paused. "But we also remember something else." Selka asked softly, "What is that?" "That the galaxy is our home too," Arden said. "We won't let it burn." He finally faced them again. "Humans will help. Not because the Alliance asked. But because innocent lives are dying." The ambassadors let out shaky breaths of relief. "But," Arden added, voice firm, "we fight on our terms. Our strategy. Our command." Selka nodded quickly. "Yes, Commander. The Council will accept anything." Arden gave a small, humorless smile. "They will accept it because they no longer have a choice." He tapped the table. "Lieutenant Kane, prepare the fleet." "Yes, Commander," Mara replied immediately, leaving the room. Arden returned his focus to the ambassadors. "Go back to your council," he said. "Tell them that humanity is coming." His voice grew hard. "And tell them to stay out of our way." The ambassadors bowed their heads deeply. "Thank you, Commander Vale." Arden did not reply. He simply turned back to the star map, staring at the red lines showing the swarm's advance. The room hummed with the sound of engines powering up in distant hangars. Outside the station, human warships began to move, like a storm gathering strength. Humanity had been silent for many years. But now, the galaxy would feel their return. The silence before a battle is a strange thing. On most worlds, soldiers pace nervously, engineers rush between stations, and officers shout orders to prepare for what is coming. But on Earth Command Station, the silence was different. It was sharp, focused, controlled, like a blade waiting to be drawn. Human fleets did not panic. They prepared. Commander Arden Vale stood inside the central command chamber, surrounded by holographic screens glowing with red warnings. The Vraxi swarm had advanced faster than even humans predicted. 3 more star systems had fallen in the last 12 hours. Millions were dead. Billions more had no way out. Human officers moved quietly around him, checking weapons, fleet positions, and energy reserves. Every movement was precise. Every voice calm. This was not arrogance. This was experience. Humans had fought extinction before. They knew how to survive it. A deep alarm tone echoed through the station. Ragnar flagship preparing for launch. Arden turned toward the window as the giant warship drifted out of its dry dock. It was massive, larger than any Alliance vessel, built not for beauty but for absolute destruction. Its armor was black as night. Its engines glowed like burning stars. And its front section contained something the Alliance had never allowed humans to use before, the Ragnar core, a weapon designed to turn human willpower into focused energy. Many in the Council believed such a weapon should never exist. That was exactly why humans kept it. Lieutenant Mara Kane stepped beside Arden. Fleet Alpha, Beta, and Gamma are ready, sir. All ships report full combat capability. Arden nodded. Status of civilian evacuation. Half complete, she replied. But at this rate, the swarm will reach the Trion sector before the final groups escape. Arden stared at the map. Then we buy them time. He tapped a control panel, activating a comlink that connected him to every human ship in the fleet. Human Defense Force, Arden said, voice calm but strong, today we face a threat that has already consumed half the frontier. Worlds burn. Families die. And the Alliance falls. You know why? He paused. Because the galaxy forgot what humans are capable of. Across hundreds of ships, soldiers listened in silence. Arden continued, we do not fight for the Council. We do not fight for the Alliance. We fight for the innocent who have no one else. We fight for the worlds that stand between life and extinction. His voice hardened. And today, we show the Vraxi what humanity truly is. The comline ended. Mara took a breath. The fleet is ready, Commander. Arden turned away from the window. Then let's begin. The fleet moves. With a thunderous boom, the human armada jumped into hyperspace. Blue tunnels of light stretched out in front of them as they moved at impossible speeds toward the Trion sector, where the swarm was advancing. Inside the Ragnar flagship, human soldiers sat quietly at their stations. They reviewed tactical data with cold precision. They checked weapons again and again. They adjusted their armor suits without saying a word. This was how humans prepared for war. Not with fear, but with readiness. As the fleet exited hyperspace, the view ahead was devastating. Trion 5, once a shining colony world, was burning. Its atmosphere glowed orange with firestorms. Pieces of destroyed orbital stations floated like broken bones. Hundreds of escape pods drifted aimlessly, their distress signals weak. And then, the swarm appeared. Millions of black, insect-like ships moved together like a living ocean, wings beating in synchronized patterns. They did not fly, they crawled through space, covering everything in their path. Even Mara inhaled sharply. That is more than the reports showed. Arden's voice remained steady. Humans don't rely on reports. We rely on what's in front of us. He sat in the command chair. All ships, defensive formation Delta 4. Carriers fall back. Destroyers draw the front line. The battle begins. The swarm detected the human presence instantly. Waves of Vraxi fighters peeled off from the main group and charged forward. Enemy incoming, a tactical officer announced. Let them come, Arden responded. Human destroyers fired first, unleashing bright streams of plasma fire that cut through the darkness. The Vraxi ships moved fast, twisting and shifting like insects trying to avoid a flame. But humans had studied their movements. Tracking pattern Gamma, Mara ordered. The destroyers adjusted their firing lines, and suddenly the plasma rounds struck true. Dozens of Vraxi ships exploded at once. Direct hits, an officer shouted. The entire fleet vibrated with energy as human pilots entered combat. Their ships moved with an almost instinctive aggression, sharp turns, rapid dives, unpredictable patterns. The Alliance always feared this recklessness. But humans called it something else. Instinct. Still, the swarm was enormous. For every Vraxi ship destroyed, 10 more pushed forward. Arden leaned forward. Bring the Ragnar online. Human fury. At the center of the human flagship, deep beneath layers of armor, the Ragnar core awakened. The lights dimmed. The ship vibrated. Energy levels rose beyond normal limits. Sensors read something strange, human brainwaves syncing together across the vessel, feeding into the core. Fear, anger, hope, courage, all emotions poured into the machine. This was humanity's true power. Not technology. Not weapons. Their spirit. Core at 90%, an engineer reported, voice shaking. Commander, once we fire, the entire swarm will feel it. Arden nodded. That's the point. He stood. Prepare to fire. A warning klaxon echoed across the bridge. Swarm closing in. Mara shouted. They're targeting the Ragnar. Arden's eyes narrowed. They know what we are. The Vraxi ship swarmed toward the flagship like a tidal wave, determined to crush it before the weapon fired. Arden raised his hand. Fire. The Ragnar core released a beam of pure white energy, wider than a city. It shot forward, cutting through millions of Vraxi ships in a single blast. The swarm screamed. Not physically, but in a psychic wave felt by every living mind in the sector. It was the first time the Vraxi experienced something they had never known before. Fear. The turning point. The swarm broke formation. Some retreated. Others scattered. The human fleet surged forward, pressing the attack while the enemy was disoriented. Commander. Mara said, eyes wide. They are falling back. Arden watched silently as the swarm pulled away from the burning planet. His voice was low. We've hurt them. But this is only the beginning. The officers around him fell silent. They understood. The Vraxi swarm was intelligent. It learned. It adapted. And now, it knew humans existed. Mara stepped forward. What now, sir? Arden turned to her with a cold, determined look. Now, he said, we take the fight to them. Outside, the human fleet regrouped around the flagship. Trion 5 still burned, but the survivors were safe. It was the first victory the galaxy had seen in months. But Arden Vale knew the truth. The real war had just begun. The human victory at Trion 5 spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in months, people felt a spark of hope. A spark that came from one name. Humanity. But inside the Ragnar flagship, Commander Arden Vale felt no victory. Hope was not enough. Not when billions were still dying. The fleet moved through dark space, scanning the remains of destroyed Vraxi ships. Human scientists studied the fragments that floated around them, twisted metal, organic slime, burnt exoskeletons, and strange black crystals pulsing faintly with energy. Lieutenant Mara Kane entered the lab, her face tense. Commander, the research teams have found something. You need to see this. Arden followed her into the dimly lit room. The scientist stepped aside, revealing a shattered crystal pod. Inside it, a metallic core pulsed like a dying heart. Dr. Rylan Stone, chief human scientist, pushed his glasses up. Commander, this changes everything. Arden looked at the core. Explain. Rylan held up a scanner showing lines of data. The Vraxi aren't acting alone. They're not just a swarm. They're being controlled. Mara frowned. By what? A central queen? No, Rylan said slowly. By something far worse. He tapped a screen. A hologram appeared, an enormous structure made of shifting black shapes, floating in a red nebula. Arden's eyes narrowed. What is that? Rylan took a deep breath. We call it the Mind Forge. The Mind Forge. The hologram zoomed in. The structure wasn't a station, or a ship, or a creature. It was all three. It pulsed with psychic energy, sending waves across space. The Mind Forge controls the Vraxi hive, Rylan explained. Not through commands, but through thought. It amplifies their instincts, their hunger, their rage. Mara crossed her arms. Then who built it? Rylan hesitated. We don't know. But the energy signatures, they're ancient. Older than the Alliance. Older than humanity. Arden stared at the spinning hologram. Why reveal itself now? Rylan turned grim. Because it feels threatened. By us. Arden didn't react. He simply nodded. Continue the analysis. But deep inside, he already knew, humanity had struck a nerve. The Ragnar core beam didn't just destroy ships. It wounded the Mindforge itself. And something injured, always fights back. A message from the Council. Later, as Arden walked toward the bridge, a comm officer approached him. Commander, incoming message from the Alliance Council. Arden sighed. Of course there is. On the main screen, the council hall appeared. Councillors sat stiffly in their seats. Some looked relieved. Others looked uncomfortable, as if admitting humans helped was painful. Councillor Relton spoke first. Commander Vale. We wish to congratulate humanity on its unexpected success. Arden raised an eyebrow. Unexpected. Relton coughed. A figure of speech. Councillor Vira leaned forward. Our scouts report that the Vraxi swarm has retreated from the Trion sector. How did humans achieve this so quickly? Arden answered plainly. We used the Ragnar core. The councillor shifted, clearly uneasy. Relton cleared his throat. That weapon is extremely dangerous. Perhaps it should be regulated. Arden's stare became sharp. By who? Silence. No one regulates humanity's survival, Arden said. Not anymore. Vira quickly intervened to calm the tension. Commander, we also have news. Alliance scouts have detected a strange structure in deep space. Something controlling the swarm. We hoped you might know more. Arden didn't hesitate. It's called the Mindforge. We're already analyzing it. The entire council gasped. Councillor Thorne, the ancient giant, spoke softly. If this Mindforge truly commands the swarm, then the war is much larger than we believed. Relton looked shaken. Commander Vale, if you defeat this Mindforge, the Alliance will owe humanity a debt beyond measure. Arden didn't smile. We're not doing this for your debts. He cut the transmission. Mara exhaled. They still don't respect humanity. Arden replied, respect is irrelevant. Survival is not. The swarm returns. Hours later, alarms echoed through the Ragnar. Commander, a sensor officer shouted. Massive unknown energy spike. Direction, Nebula X-19, same position as the Mindforge. Arden stood instantly. Put it on screen. The main display showed a red flash inside the nebula. Then another. Then a third. The entire nebula lit up like a beating heart. Mara whispered, it's awakening. A massive shockwave burst outward. Then the swarm emerged, not millions this time, but tens of millions. A black sea of wings, claws, and glowing eyes. They are forming attack patterns, a tactical officer said, voice shaking. They're coming straight for us. Arden's face hardened. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Commander, there are too many. I know. But something else happened. Something no one expected. The swarm didn't scatter like before. They moved in perfect formation, woven together by invisible threads of psychic control. Rylan appeared on the bridge, breathless. The Mindforge is fully awake. It's directing them with complete precision now. Mara cursed under her breath. So Trion 5 was just a test. Now they are serious. Arden gave a single command. Hold position. The officers froze. Mara turned to him. Sir? If we hold position, they'll surround us. Arden stepped forward. Let them. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. But they obeyed. Outside, the swarm tightened its shape, curling around the human fleet like a giant serpent preparing to strike. Mara whispered, they're not attacking. They're watching us. Arden nodded. The Mindforge is studying us. Trying to understand the weapon that hurt it. Rylan looked terrified. Commander, if it learns how the Ragnar core works, it might find a way to counter it. Arden stared at the swarm on the display. Which means we have to act before it does. The plan. Arden turned to his officers. Prepare for a jump. We're going after the Mindforge. Mara blinked. Sir, you want to attack it directly? We don't even know its defenses. Arden answered without hesitation. We know enough. Rylan swallowed. Commander, that structure could be the size of a moon. We may not survive. Arden cut him off. If the Mindforge survives, humanity won't. Nor will the Alliance. Nor any world within 500 light-years. Silence. Mara stepped forward. Then we go with you, sir. Whatever happens. Arden allowed a small nod. All ships, charge hyperspace drives. Set destination, Nebula X-19. The officers moved quickly. Engines ignited. Shields powered up. Weapons charged. The swarm remained still, watching. Arden looked at it one last time. "Tell the Mind Forge," he said quietly, "that humans are coming." Mara whispered, "Commander, if we face it, there's no going back." Arden's eyes did not waver. There was no going back the moment they started this war. The Ragnar flagship turned toward the glowing nebula, engines burning with white fire. Then, in a burst of light, the human fleet jumped into the heart of darkness. The battle for the galaxy had truly begun. The war had finally slowed for the first time in weeks. After a long chain of brutal battles, the human fleet and the Alliance ships were recharging, repairing, and trying to understand what they were fighting. The Vraxi swarm had withdrawn from several systems without explanation. They simply vanished, leaving behind dead planets and fields full of drifting wreckage. Some took this as a sign of victory. But human Commander Arden Vale felt something else. Unease. The silence was wrong. Too sudden. Too perfect. Wherever the Vraxi attacked, they consumed everything. They never paused. Never negotiated. Never retreated. So why did they suddenly stop now? Arden knew instinctively that predators this vicious didn't pull back unless something bigger commanded them. At the edge of the fleet, a team of human scientists worked inside the ship Horizon Breaker. Among them was Dr. Celine Ward, a quiet but brilliant xenobiologist. She had been studying pieces of Vraxi tissue and fragments from their ships. Her face carried exhaustion, but her voice remained sharp and focused as she reported her findings. "Commander," she said over the comms, "the Vraxi swarm is not acting independently. They're being controlled." Arden leaned forward in his chair. "Controlled? By who?" "That's the problem," Dr. Ward replied. "By something we have never encountered before." Inside the laboratory, strange, pulsating organic fragments lay sealed in containment tubes. They glowed with a faint violet color. Wires from scanners fed into a central display showing a pulsing wave of psychic energy. Dr. Ward zoomed in on the signal. "These patterns are too complex for natural evolution. They're coordinated, like instructions." Arden's eyes narrowed. "Mind control?" "More than that," she said. "This is full sensory and motor override. Every Vraxi acts like a single nerve ending of a larger organism. A hive mind." Arden felt a cold chill at the base of his spine. "Then where is the brain?" Dr. Ward hesitated. "That is what we need to find." Across the fleet, the Alliance Council had finally decided to speak with the humans. After their earlier arrogance, they were finally treating humanity with something close to respect, though not quite humility. Inside the virtual conference room, holographic figures of the Corians, Velnari, Talawayan, and other alien species shimmered around the table. Arden explained the findings in simple, clear words so even the most stubborn council member could not misunderstand. "The Vraxi swarm is being controlled," Arden stated. "Not by instinct or chemical signals. By intelligence." Councillor Trivan of the Corian race, known for his sharp tongue, folded his forearms. "Controlled? That is impossible. We have scanned the swarm many times." Arden didn't blink. "Humans scanned it once. And found it." The council exchanged uncomfortable looks. The human reputation for deep analysis was now proving itself true. Councillor Rithara of the Velnari spoke next. Her voice carried genuine worry. "Commander Vale, if the swarm is controlled, then that controller must be incredibly powerful." Arden nodded. "Powerful and ancient. The patterns are too refined. Too stable. Something has been refining them for centuries, maybe longer." Councillor Trivan scoffed again. "And what do you call this supposed mastermind?" Dr. Ward stepped into view beside Arden. Her voice was calm and steady. "We have named it the Mind Forge." The room fell silent. She continued, "It is not a creature in the biological sense. Not a machine either. It is a hybrid psionic intelligence, part organic, part energy. It exists somewhere beyond normal space, generating commands and feeding them into the swarm like a brain instructing muscles." Another council member shook their head. "And why would such a being need the Vraxi?" Dr. Ward answered simply, "Because it does not have a physical body. The Vraxi are its hands, its claws, and its teeth." Arden added, "And its army." The fleet's mood shifted instantly. The enemy they thought was unstoppable was actually just a tool. But that realization brought a more terrifying truth. What kind of mind could use an entire species as puppets? A few hours later, human scout frigate Silver Dart detected an unusual anomaly near a collapsed star system. Commander Arden ordered immediate investigation. When the Silver Dart arrived, its sensors picked up a strange object floating in the darkness, a giant structure of black stone and living metal shaped like a twisted crown. The object emitted faint psychic waves. As they drew closer, the ship's AI warned, "Caution. Unknown mental signatures detected." Dr. Ward's voice echoed over the comms. "Commander, that isn't a ruin. It's an anchor." Arden stared at the visuals. "An anchor for what?" "For the Mind Forge," she whispered. The anchor pulsed subtly, like a heartbeat. It was connected through invisible channels to the Vraxi swarm across many star systems. This was not just a device, it was a gateway, a bridge connecting the Mind Forge's consciousness to physical reality. Suddenly alarms blared across the Silver Dart. Massive energy spike. Mind Forge signal increasing. Brace for contact. Then it happened. The minds of the crew were hit by a wave, a crushing, suffocating pressure that forced everyone to their knees. The ship shook violently as the psychic pulse passed through it like an ocean current. Arden held onto the command chair, teeth clenched. For a brief second, he felt something brush against his thoughts. It was cold. It was ancient. And it was curious. The Mind Forge had noticed them. And it whispered. New minds. Resistant. Useful. Arden forced himself to break free of the psychic grip. Pull back. Now. The Silver Dart disengaged and shot away from the anchor as fast as its engines allowed. The moment distance increased, the pressure faded, and the crew gasped for air. Back at the fleet, Arden addressed everyone. The Mind Forge is aware of us. It knows humans are a threat. Dr. Ward added, her voice trembling slightly, this enemy does not just want territory. It wants every mind in the galaxy silenced, except its own. Arden clenched his fist. Then we have no choice. We find the Mind Forge. We destroy it. Because if we don't... He looked out at the stars, each one a potential victim. The entire galaxy will fall. The discovery of the Mind Forge changed everything. What the Alliance once believed to be a chaotic beast was actually a weapon, guided, controlled, and sharpened by a cold ancient intelligence that desired only silence in the galaxy. No negotiations. No mercy. No escape. And now, the Mind Forge knew about the humans. Commander Arden Vale stood at the center of the human flagship Resolute Dawn. The bridge lights were dim, glowing softly on the metal panels as the crew worked in sharp focus. Reports from every corner of the fleet came in. The Vraxi swarm was gathering again, but this time in numbers far beyond anything previously recorded. A storm was coming. Arden looked at the holographic display of star systems blinking red one after another. So it begins, he murmured. Dr. Celine Ward stepped beside him, tablet in hand. The Mind Forge is adapting, she said. It has redirected its swarm toward the Central Alliance routes. It wants to break our supply lines. And trap us, Arden added. The Alliance was afraid, terrified, even. Their fleets hesitated, their councils argued, and several member species began evacuations. But the humans did not hesitate. Humanity had faced extinction before. They had survived Earth's dark ages, wars, famine, plagues, and the endless struggle for their place in the galaxy. This enemy, though horrifying, awakened an old truth inside every human. Humans fight hardest when things are darkest. The plan for retaliation. Inside the war room, leaders from the human factions gathered around Arden. The atmosphere was tense but determined. Admiral Kale Orion, a veteran with iron-gray hair and a scar across his jaw, spoke first. The swarm is closing in on our outer defenses, he said. They're trying to pin us down. Another commander added, we need something big. Something they don't expect. Dr. Ward cleared her throat. We may have that. The Ragnar Array. The room fell silent. The Ragnar Array was a human creation so controversial that even humanity kept it hidden. A weapon that fed on the emotional strength of its operators, fear, courage, grief, rage, and converted it into a powerful energy wave. But using it came at a cost. The operators would experience intense emotional strain, sometimes even physical damage. Admiral Orion frowned. You're suggesting we unleash that thing? Against a psychic enemy? Dr. Ward nodded. The Mind Forge uses minds. We hit it with something minds were never meant to feel. Arden understood instantly. Human emotions. Exactly, she said. The Mind Forge reads minds like open books. But human emotions, they are chaotic, unpredictable, explosive. No alien species has the same psychological volatility. If we amplify that enough, we may disrupt the Mind Forge's link to the Vraxi. So we attack its brain, Arden said. Not its army. The commanders exchanged glances. No one liked the idea. But everyone knew, this war was beyond normal limits now. Preparing for battle. For the first time in decades, the humans prepared the Ragnar array. Engineers unlocked sealed bays. Massive generators hummed, glowing with blue and amber light. The weapon stretched across the entire lower deck of the Resolute Dawn, forming a ring-like structure of metal and energy coils. Hundreds of human soldiers volunteered to be emotional anchors. They lined up in rows, sitting inside pods connected by neural cables. These pods would channel their deepest emotions and convert them into raw power. Arden walked among them, his expression solemn. You are the heart of humanity today, he told them. The galaxy stands because you will feel. Not hide. Not break. A young soldier, barely in his 20s, raised his hand. Sir, what if the Mind Forge gets inside our heads? Arden placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let it look. Let it see what humans truly are. The soldier nodded, courage replacing fear. The swarm arrives. Hours later, alarms blared across the ship. Multiple warp signatures detected. Vraxi swarm incoming. Thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands. The view outside the windows darkened as a black ocean of organic ships poured out of hyperspace. The swarm moved like a living shadow, pulsing and shifting as one mind controlled every vessel. The Alliance fleets joined formation behind the humans, but it was clear they were terrified. Their lines shook. Their captains whispered prayers. Their ships trembled under the psychic pressure. But the humans? They stood firm. Arden's voice echoed over the comms. All human ships, form the Iron Ring. Prepare the array. The human fleet surrounded the Resolute Dawn in a protective circle. Cannons charged. Fighters launched. Drones activated. They were vastly outnumbered, but humanity never measured war by numbers. The Vraxi swarm charged. The galaxy held its breath. The fury ignites. Inside the Ragnar array chamber, the emotional anchors began focusing. Their memories, their pain, their courage, everything was being pulled into the neural network. The array lit up. Blue, red, gold, colors of emotion, swirling like a storm. Dr. Ward monitored the readings. We are reaching critical resonance, she said. Once we trigger, we can't stop it. Arden nodded. Do it. She pressed the activation control. A pulse erupted from the array, rippling through space like a shockwave. The Vraxi swarm screeched in unison, an unnatural, bone-shaking psychic scream. The pulse hit the swarm not like energy, but like emotion. Raw, violent, unpredictable human emotion. Rage. Grief. Hope. Pain. Love. Desperation. The Mind Forge had never felt such chaotic power. Vraxi ships started spinning out of formation. Some crashed into each other. Some stopped moving entirely. The psychic web connecting them flickered like a damaged circuit. Dr. Ward's eyes widened. It's working. The link is destabilizing. Arden watched the battle rage outside. Again, he said. Hit them again. Another pulse. Then another. And another. Each one stronger than the last. The Mind Forge felt them. Deep in its hidden dimension, the ancient intelligence recoiled. Human emotions were not like alien minds, calm, predictable, logical. Humanity was a fire. A storm. A hurricane. An explosion waiting to happen. And the Mind Forge had poked that explosion. The turning of the tide. Alliance ships watched in awe as the mighty Vraxi swarm, once unstoppable, began to fall apart. Entire sections broke off, drifting helplessly. Psychic feedback contaminated their signals. The hive mind collapsed in pieces. Admiral Orion shouted, "Human ships, advance." The fleet surged forward, firing everything they had. Laser beams, plasma bolts, missiles, all streaked through the battlefield. The Vraxi fought back, but they were no longer perfect. No longer united. No longer controlled. Arden turned to Dr. Ward. How long until the Mind Forge adapts? She shook her head. I don't know. But it will adapt. This thing learns fast. Arden nodded slowly. Then we take the fight to it. Before it recovers. He looked at the star map. The anchor's location blinked. That is our next target, he said. The final battle. The galaxy had seen many wars, but nothing like this. The Vraxi swarm, once a tidal wave of destruction, was collapsing piece by piece under the fury of human emotion. But Commander Arden Vale knew one truth clearly. This was not victory. Not yet. Not while the Mindforge still lived. On the command deck of the Resolute Dawn, alarms pulsed softly. Damage reports came in from all across the combined fleet. Ships burned. Hulls cracked. Lives were lost. But the swarm had finally stopped advancing. Now the real enemy waited. The Mindforge's anchor. A massive, dark crown-like structure floating in silent space. A doorway into the Mindforge's realm. A place of pure psychic power. Admiral Orion stood beside Arden, arms crossed. Our scouts confirmed it, Commander. The anchor is weakening. If we destroy it, we cut the Mindforge off from this reality. Dr. Celine Ward added, but be careful, this thing is reacting. The Ragnar array hurt it. Now it wants revenge. Arden nodded slowly. Then let it come. We finish this today. For the galaxy. The journey to the anchor. The human fleet assembled into a tight spear formation, engines burning bright. Alliance ships followed behind, shaken but inspired. Every species now looked to humanity for leadership. Not because the humans were perfect. Not because they were the strongest. But because they refused to surrender. Even against impossible odds. As they traveled toward the anchor, the space around them grew strangely quiet. Lights dimmed. Sensors picked up ghost-like signals. Some crew members reported hearing whispers. Dr. Ward studied the readings with a frown. The Mindforge is testing us. Trying to get inside our thoughts. Arden clenched his jaw. Then block it out. We keep moving. Minutes later, the fleet dropped out of warp and arrived at the anchor. The sight stole the breath from every viewer. The structure was enormous, miles wide, shaped like a jagged crown made from black stone and glowing organic veins. Purple energy pulsed through its cracks like a heartbeat. Every pulse released waves of psychic vibrations strong enough to rattle the ships. And floating around it were the remnants of the Vraxi. But these were not like the swarm. These were larger, twisted, mutated versions, creatures controlled directly by the Mindforge, not its hive. Their bodies were fused with metal. Their eyes glowed bright white. They were the Mindforge's elite guardians. Admiral Orion's voice broke the silence. Those things, they're not drones. They're extensions of the Mindforge itself. Arden stepped forward. Then we break them first. The battle begins. The Mindforge's guardians attacked with terrifying precision. Streams of psychic energy shot from their bodies, slicing through shields like fire through paper. They moved as if they already knew the human strategies. But humanity had something they didn't. Unpredictability. Human fighters darted through the battlefield with reckless creativity. Capital ships broke formation only to reappear at unexpected angles. Fleet captains invented new maneuvers in the middle of combat. The Guardians may have been stronger. But the humans were wilder. Each blast from the enemy made the humans fight harder, push faster, and get angrier. And the Ragnar array, already activated from the previous battle, continued sending emotional waves that weakened the Guardians. Arden watched from the bridge as a dozen Guardians fell. They're cracking. Focus fire on the anchor's shields. Alliance ships joined the attack with renewed courage. Lasers and plasma bolts crashed into the Mindforge's barrier, slowly tearing it apart. But the Mindforge was far from defeated. The Mindforge strikes back. Without warning, a massive psychic shockwave blasted out from the anchor. It smashed into the human fleet like a tidal wave. Crew members screamed and fell to their knees, clutching their heads. Dr. Ward gasped. It's attacking our minds directly. Commander, it's trying to break our emotional network. Arden held onto the command chair, his vision blurring. Hold the line. But the Mindforge's voice echoed inside every brain. You resist. You suffer. You struggle. But you will fall. Human emotions, so fierce just moments ago, began collapsing under the psychic pressure. Soldiers felt their courage fade. Their hope dim. Their strength drain away. Admiral Orion fell to one knee. Arden, we're losing them. Arden closed his eyes. And remembered. He remembered Earth. The noise, the chaos, the poverty, the resilience. He remembered every loss humanity had endured. Every disaster, every war, every tragedy. Humanity had survived all of it. Not because they were strong. But because they refused to break. Arden opened his eyes and shouted, Dr. Ward. Connect me to the Ragnar array. She stared at him. Commander, the strain could kill you. Arden didn't hesitate. Do it. The heart of humanity. Arden stepped into the array chamber. The emotional anchors looked to him as their leader and their symbol. Dr. Ward connected the neural cables to him, her hands trembling. Once you enter the network, she said softly, your mind becomes part of the weapon. You'll feel everything. Arden nodded. If that's what it takes. I'll give everything. Dr. Ward swallowed hard. Good luck, Commander. The array activated. Arden's senses exploded with color and emotion. He felt thousands of human memories flood through him. Laughter, grief, anger, pride, love. It was overwhelming and beautiful at the same time. He pushed it outward. The Ragnar array pulsed with a bright golden wave, far stronger than before. The Mindforge screamed. Its guardians writhed and collapsed. Alliance ships felt the pressure lift from their minds. Hope returned. Courage surged. But Arden wasn't done. He gathered every ounce of human fury, every battle, every sacrifice, every breath of determination, and sent it through the array in one massive final surge. This time the wave was not just emotional energy. It was the spirit of humanity itself. The end of the Mindforge. The blast struck the anchor with the force of 10 suns. Cracks formed along its dark surface. Purple energy burst out like liquid fire. The guardian creatures dissolved into ash. Inside its dying realm, the Mindforge roared. Chaotic minds? Impossible. Unacceptable. But humanity didn't listen. Arden delivered one final mental strike. A surge of emotion so intense and pure that the anchor shattered into thousands of pieces. The explosion rippled across space, folding in on itself as the Mindforge's presence disintegrated. The psychic storm vanished. The galaxy fell silent. The Vraxi swarm, now brainless, froze in place. The war was over. Aftermath. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Dr. Ward removed the cables from Arden. He collapsed to the floor, eyes closed but alive. She shook him until he opened his eyes. It's over, she whispered. Arden breathed slowly. Did we win? She nodded, tears in her eyes. Yes. Humanity saved the galaxy. Admiral Orion appeared on the screen. All fleets report the same thing. The Mindforge is gone. The swarm is collapsing. Commander, you did it. Arden smiled faintly. No, we did it. Across the galaxy, every species spoke the same words. When all else fails, call the humans. Humanity, once feared, once doubted, had become the saviors of the stars. And the legend of their fury would never be forgotten.